Welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, president of GlobalPro, where we manage risk to recovery. And as many of you know, we've managed more than $1 billion in recovery and the placements of thousands of policies for business owners and community associations throughout the country. We continue to do that good work, and we are here every Thursday at 11 o'clock to make sure that you have information you can use. Two of the big hot button issues that are impacting big markets, whether it's the Florida area as well as Texas. First off, in Florida, the two bills that I've been talking about, that I've been rammering on about for the last, I'd say, couple months, huge amounts of anti-consumer legislation in there, but tricky stuff to navigate. Hopefully in this upcoming session, some of that gets washed out, fixed, and it actually will start to make some sense. But again, like as you've heard in the prior episodes, do not expect any sort of cost savings. They're not expecting these bills to do anything to help us as consumers. Sadly, all it's helped is the insurance companies profit more from your premium. That's really what it is. The reporting standards, the auditing processes is all confusing. I talk so much about that in all these prior episodes. I break it down in detail. There's so much information out there. Even the people that have actually promoted these bills, that wrote a lot of this legislation, are telling us as consumers right now, don't expect changes, don't expect this to positively impact you in any sort of way. In fact, as a consumer advocate, I can tell you right now, it's going to kind of tie up your hands. It makes it harder to dispute and fight things. I also think as far as placing new insurance, I think it's going to get a little bit more trickier in the short run. I do, though, I think the silver lining in all of it is that I'm hopeful that the new reporting standards and the new auditing process maybe get a little fine tuning to it, and maybe we'll start to see a little bit behind the scenes as to what's going on. Where is that premium dollar going? Where is it, and how is it being spent? And how might this lead to new legislation that might actually start to help consumers? But as pendulums swing, and when they swing too far to one side, there is usually some sort of balancing that occurs thereafter, and I'm hopeful for that, because they swung this pendulum so far in favor of the insurance companies. They got everything they were looking for, where there was restrictions on public adjusting, restrictions on contractors, restrictions on attorneys, claiming that if they got these things, that the insurance industry at large would want to sell insurance in Florida, would create a more competitive market, a more favorable market to insurance companies, despite, again, no financial real information supporting any of their allegations regarding litigation, public adjusting, or even abuses of most of these contractors. Many of the issues that we're seeing, or use cases that they're using to support, justify, if you really dig down deep and look at this stuff, it's really not there. Switching gears over to Texas, we saw a major winter weather system move through there, huge amounts of freezing. We are handling massive claims. Two very large commercial losses that come to mind. Many others that are impacted, community associations as well as business owners. If you have suffered these damages, be careful. If anything, if you've learned anything from the last freeze that downed power lines and the power grid in the Texas market, you know that it is a very confusing process. Much of the information that the Department of Insurance was putting out at the time and honestly led to a lot of underpayment and issues in the claims process. We're seeing a lot of litigation still going on from that freeze. So be careful, look at your policies, reach out to us, let us know what we can do to help you through that process. We want to make sure that you understand what you can claim for, how you can claim it, who can help you with your mitigation efforts. I'm sure they're ongoing. Again, right now, document. We've actually heard a lot of insurance companies really stepping up after this event, so it seems promising that claims are actually being paid, and there's some expediting of that process, unlike the last freeze, where adjusters didn't show up to properties for 6-8 months after it. They were so overwhelmed. It seems like there was a little bit of assistance provided to the insurance industries, or the insurance industry serving the Texas market that may have been impacted. However, again, we're seeing some of the same pitfalls with regards to coverage, whether they're water losses or freeze claims. Additional living expenses continues to be a pitfall and issue. So be careful. Just because they're being more responsive this time around, admittedly they are. However, what we're seeing is once they've responded and maybe made a payment, that it's been a lowball, or there's some sort of delay in additional coverages that may be owed to you. So just be careful of it. Let us know what we can do to reach out to us. Now, we've been talking a lot about the markets in both Texas as well as Florida. We had on our very own Rob Bulby just this past week talking about the state of the economy and the market in Texas, coming off of the big weather event and some of the issues that we saw there. So we thought it'd be great to bring it back here to Florida, to talk about Florida, to bring on an industry expert, someone that certainly knows or has his finger on the pulse about what's going on. So I want to welcome our next guest here, Eric, with Grycon, president of Grycon. So happy to have you here in our actual studio. It's been fantastic to have a few people in here. So thank you, Eric, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Grycon. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started? What is Grycon? And why do people need to know what you guys are doing?
Well, Grycon is a local South Florida general contractor working only in the South Florida market. We've been working as Grycon since 2008, but our team and our core has been working together for over 30 to 40 years in the South Florida market. Myself, I started with Larry Kibler, our founder, back in 1995, and been working together with him since then. And now my partner, Patrick Kibler, and Larry, Patrick and I are majority partners and stakeholders within the company. And we've grown it to, we have approximately 50 employees. We do about $100 million in annual revenue. I'll take a step back. Myself, I was born in New Jersey, came down to Miami in '91, went to school at Miami-Dade College for 2 years, graduated from there, went to FIU, graduated in the construction management program in '95, and here I am today with you, sitting here in your beautiful studio.
Well, I just learned a little something about you that I didn't even know, even though we've had some opportunity. Showed up very punctual today, so if Eric's punctuality is anything like the rest of the business, which I have no doubt it is, it was fantastic to actually have you here, get to know you a little bit more. We spent quite a bit of time together at the LBA, Latin Builders Association, where we met. Amazing organization. We've talked a lot about that. We've had on Gus and many other members of the Latin Builders Association on here. Such an important part of, I think, our local economy and our industry, and certainly a leader in it. So I know you share that sentiments with me. FIU, construction management, I was enrolled there as well.
Right.
Just as an FYI.
All right.
Soon after graduating from Florida State University, moved to DC, met my now wife, relocated to South Florida, and enrolled with the FIU master's program there. So interesting. Another thing in common. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you at the end of the episode, but since we're talking about things in common, on your lapel, you have a Grycon. So, and as many of those that have tuned into the show know that's very near and dear to GlobalPro's heart. It is our logo. You see it right there in the corner right below me.
I do see.
So a little bit of the history of that.
So the Grycon, before Grycon started doing business in South Florida, we were formerly known as Grycon Construction, Gryphon. So the Grycon is a Greek mythological creature, half eagle, half lion. That was our logo back at Grycon. That was our name and our logo. And then in 2008, when the bubble burst, we restructured and we rebranded. We became Grycon. So we took the GRY from the Grycon and the CON from construction, put them together, and there you go with Grycon. But we kept the Grycon as our mascot, and it sits on top of our motto and our slogan, which is true to the top. So we stay with the Grycon. It's always part of us and our culture and our history. So we're happy and proud of it.
Well, see, and that's, again, I think, Eric, there's so much in common between really the legacy that you guys continue to carry on, symbolism and meaning, and I think that's certainly a company culture thing.
And it's been since the onset. So
awesome.
Our company philosophy and culture is all about quite frankly, our slogan, right? So it's true to the top, being true to oneself, being honest, being loyal, and that transcends through all our employees. And that's what we bring to our clients. That's, I think, the differentiating factor for Grycon in our industry. There's a lot of contractors that can build buildings,
yep.
But what we build is relationships. We pride ourselves on repeat business, repeat clients, because we do the right thing by the client. We have the same vision. We understand what they need, and we run in parallel with them, the design team, and everyone else for a successful job with common goals.
I love it, and I love everything you're preaching, and I love the the symbolism and the logo and what it means, and then actually and how you guys continue to carry that on. I mean, just a simple check of the website. If the information will be down, make sure we're in the description area.
Yep.
And Eric's going to give you some more information about how you can get in touch with them a little bit later. But check out the projects; they're fantastic. But and because of the types of projects you do, one of the things I want to get into the topic today is the state of the Miami development. Is what are some of the biggest challenges right now that are impacting South Florida, the Miami market, that you guys see that you're contending with? And is there any solution that you guys are working on or see in the future?
There's several challenges that we're facing. I think one of the biggest ones at this time is there's high demand for housing, for office, for workforce housing. So what we found is the submarket is somewhat diluted because there's so much work. Everyone's busy, so the resources are depleted. So the manpower, we don't have as much manpower available to us, so there's always needs for that. And then there's the materials and procurement of materials. Typical products which have standard lead times are now taking much longer to receive. Standard switchgear that would take 3 months is now taking a year. So dealing with all those nuances, understanding how to deal with them properly so the project can complete on time, you just have to shift the way you do business and try to adapt to those challenges as best you can.
And I assume that a lot of there's economic drivers there, right? So and those are big impacts. I mean, when we talk construction, we're talking real estate, and anyone out there that's listening to this knows that it's cyclical in nature, right? Are you starting to see any sort of runoff on demand? Are owners transitioning projects, looking at possibly different use of their land or their existing building? What are the types of things that you're seeing as far as impacts from the economy?
I haven't really seen much of a slowdown, and I don't see it in the near future, quite honestly, because it's not only the work we have on hand. I'm looking at and projecting through 24, 25, and usually the slowdown, you see them from the zoning attorneys, the design teams, if they're not, but they're all busy. The demand is still there. Everyone's coming down and they want to be part of this South Florida community. So it's a wonderful position to be in, but it does present its challenges, like you said. And so we adapt and we try to, what we've done with Grycon is we have a more diverse portfolio. So we've seen a lot of the owners now where they have existing buildings and they'll repurpose them, they'll reutilize them, keep the structure, gut the building, renovate it. And so we're doing a lot of projects that are in that type of project, I should say.
Yeah, and a real big topic coming up, I know for BizNow, we're big partners of BizNow, do a lot of marketing advertising. We had a chance to talk about this a little bit before the show. One of the big topics is about reuse, and you and I spoke about that, just reusing and maybe upzoning existing structures. Are you seeing more of that in the South Florida market? And if you are, like, what types of uses are they look at? Are there cool amenities? Are they people adding things to those existing buildings to make them more attractive?
We've seen a lot of it, and they're all driven with different reasons. So we have some projects that we are repurposing, and they can't demolish the building because there might be a historical element to it. Excuse me. There might be a historical element to the building and the structure that must remain. So we have to deal with that, keep it in place, and build around it. Others, because they have zoning restrictions, height restrictions, they can't change the densities or the FAR, so they keep the existing structures. Yeah. Others, because quite frankly, the structure's in good shape, and it's easier to gut it, and then you don't have to deal with the concrete pricing and the escalations that have occurred over the past years. So there's many different reasons why they're doing it, yeah, but we're involved in all of those types of products.
Have you seen a change in demographic demand? Is it still the migration that's fueling some of this potential growth and opportunity you see?
I think it is, but the migration, I think, has somewhat shifted, because before it was typically northeast moving down. Now this is a global market. It's no longer northeast. You have the South American market, you have a European market, and you have the west coast of the United States. Everyone's coming here. I've always said that South Florida is kind of, when it pertains to recessions or downturns, we're kind of like an accounting principle somewhat. We're always last
Good way
in.
of putting it.
Right, we're last into it and we're first out of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So hopefully we never have to face one.
Yeah.
But you know, if we do, we try, our company at least, we try to maintain diverse portfolios, so there's a downturn in one sector, we still have healthy growth within the company.
Yeah, I was kind of like in that situation while living in DC shortly after college. Was absolutely crushing it while I was in engineering school. Moved up to DC to chase some opportunity in construction. And then the downturn started hitting, and DC was just absolutely a firestorm up there with regards to how hard it was being hit. And met my now wife. I was like, hell, I might as well give it a shot. I fell in love. I went back down to Miami, and it never. I'll be honest with you, when I was in construction in Miami during the last recession downturn, it never really felt like it slowed down in Miami. I mean, honestly, you would hear the stories, but if you were actively on a job site, these job sites didn't seem to be changing. They seemed to just keep going. I mean, people were still building. And man, it was like 1 minute they're saying about oversupply, tens of thousands of units. They didn't know what was going to go on, these big vulture funds. And I felt like it was like literally like you turned the page like instantly, and it was like there was not enough supply, and the economy's booming, and all this money's coming in from these foreign investors. So you made an incredible point about, this is a global market. And I think that's what people a lot of times forget about South Florida, how global the market is. And while, the migration to the point that we've made here has certainly fueled a lot of that growth, we're still a global market. There's still foreign investment interest in it. So I want to break down the migration, if you will, and talk a little bit about consumer confidence in this market. I mean, because we have a lot of things, right? We have sea level rise, insurance issues. Do you see any impediments in the future beyond your projections of 2024, 2025? Some challenges that you think that we might need to deal with?
I think that because we're still a young city, and I'm speaking to Miami, all of South Florida. It's a young city, and the high demand and growth in residency, it's wonderful, but then it causes there to be, people get priced out of homes and areas, so the South Florida, the core, if you will, expands, and it heads further west and south, and so housing for typical workforce housing becomes more difficult because now they're further away from their place of employment. So what does that cause? That causes a transportation issue, right? So if you can afford a house and you're living in Homestead, but you're working in the city of Miami, well, you're driving 45 minutes without traffic.
Yeah.
And with traffic, you're an hour and a half, both ways. Yeah. So those are some of the challenges that we're faced with that I think, the city and the elected officials are dealing with these days.
So you've sat in traffic before in Miami then?
Every so often.
That's
why I try to be early.
It's
important, right?
Yeah, you're definitely early. I was like grateful. Believe me, grateful for it. I was mentioning. I've had guests show up literally at 11 o'clock when we're about to go live, and I'm like, no, it's literally a live show. So it was awesome. But yeah, traffic is insane. It's definitely something we all contend with constantly. And I think that is it going to improve? I doubt it. We talked about public transportation. Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely a challenge for South Florida. How are we going to get better with public transportation? I mean, I think it's necessary for the sustainable growth of the community. We talked about the Bright Line, right? Yeah. Fantastic opportunity right there. I told you a little bit of story just recently where we had family members of ours meet us in Palm Beach that lived down in the Redlands. They came to a station, got on it, went up to Palm Beach, grabbed an Uber, came to meet us over at the Breakers. It was so seamless and easy. They said there's no way that they don't do it again. So there's opportunity there, and I did think that, obviously, I think it's just awareness, and people talking more about it and supporting those things will help it. Now, in this market, do you see things trending more towards retail, industrial, residential? Where's the heavy interest?
I think that residential is always the driving force because people want to move here. So everything kind of spawns off of that. So the office and retail are all components of our increased density and people moving to South Florida. For Grycon, as an example, our portfolio, we're building currently retail with parking, multi-use facilities, residential, office spaces. We work at the University of Miami as well. So all of those components, all driven from, I think, quite frankly, the residential people moving here, right? The increase in residency needs. You need increased in all the supplies and infrastructure that's required for the people.
So tell us about a few of the projects you're working on. Like, what are you working on? Where is it? And anything kind of unique attribute about it? What are your clients doing right now?
Well, we're working on several different projects. One is an example of the repurposing of existing uses. There's 2 office buildings on Brickell Key, the Courvoisier Centers. We're repurposing those into Class A office buildings.
Awesome.
A whole new curtain wall system around the 2 buildings, new interiors, and so that's going to be completed within the next year and provide a brand new entrance into Brickell Key. It's a very exciting project. Owners are developers from Spain, so showing the multicultural facets
Global nature of it, yeah.
global nature of Miami. Also working with Terra Group on projects in Doral. We're doing retail buildings for them with parking. Working on some retail buildings up in Fort Lauderdale, and also at the University of Miami, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of exciting things going on.
That's very cool. So how can our audience find out more about Grycon and get in contact with you guys?
The easiest way is just to go onto our website, Grycon.net. It tells you a little bit about our history, about us, how to get in contact with us. We're always looking for good qualified people in the construction industry, so we're constantly hiring, looking for good young talent.
That's awesome. I mean, Eric, it was a joy to have you on. We had an awesome opportunity to get to know each other a little bit more and talk a little bit more what's going on. I see at the LBA all the time. We sharing some cocktails and hang out socially, but it's great to get a one-on-one to sit down and talk about these important issues because are we at an inflection point? Are we not? Are we in a recession? Have we been in a recession? Are we headed to one? I think it's kind of anyone's guess, and there's a lot of analytics around it. Don't want to ever try to be an economist, if you will. But I think those that are in the construction industry and the insurance industry as well certainly have a good idea. You have advanced indicators of where interests are shifting, what people are willing or not do, and what risks they're willing to take on, and which ones they're trying to get rid of, right? So it's sometimes a good indicator as to how to better manage your position. Well, congrats to your entire team on all of its success over the last many years.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to having you back on here in the near future.
I'll be here. You just call me.
All right, guys. Well, awesome episodes. It was great to have Eric, obviously, in the studio with us today to talk about these important issues, to talk about all the things that you need to know with regards to what's going on in the South Florida construction industry and what's going on in the real estate world. If you need more information about Grycon, check them out online. Eric provides you guys that information. We'll make sure that it's right there down in the description. And as I always tell you every single week, like us, subscribe, and follow us on all our social media. We want to make sure that you have the information you can use. So continue to tune in right here at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Recovery Report Live.